Hey guys, it's Hunter. Welcome back to another video. Trends in guitar, just like with everything else really, they're cyclical. It's 2020 and the 80s are back. Charvel had a huge hit with their DK24 CMs last year. BC Rich is making a comeback under new management, and Kramer, well, with Kramer, we've got this. Truth be told, I don't really know much about this. I saw it at my local Sam Ash. I knew it was famous for something or another and that Kramer fans were really excited for it. Other than that, nothing. I just really wanted to try it. Old school Kramer fans are gonna kill me in the comments. Anyways, let's take a closer look. Before we get into the meat of it, I'd love to give a shout out to Cade Morrison and the rest of the amazing patrons that make this content possible and keep the channel going. If you'd like to directly support these reviews as well, you can join the Patreon community through the link below, or even hitting the like button actually really helps out as well. And now, let's get into the review. Okay, so it was kind of difficult to find concrete information on this guitar because as of filming this review, the Kramer website hasn't been updated with the official product page yet. But between Google and hitting up Algin, who's the product manager at Gibson and Epiphone, I've managed to piece it together somewhat, and Algin is super passionate about Kramer as well. He's been trying to get me into Kramer for a while. I just don't have that nostalgic affinity with the brand since its heyday was so before my time. I've always been more into the Epiphone side of things because that's what I grew up playing, but I digress. This thing is so eye-catching. Let's get into the background. So, from what I understand, this design was started in 1986 as the signature model of Richie Sambora of Bon Jovi. It was discontinued in 1989 when Sambora left Kramer in favor of Fender. 15 years later, in 2004, Kramer, by then owned by Gibson, reissued the design whilst at the same time dropping Sambora's name, opting to call it the Jersey Star. This iteration was in production for a couple of years, becoming one of the best-selling Kramer guitars before being discontinued again. So today, they're highly sought after, and with such a storied legacy, no Kramer reboot would be complete without a Jersey Star reissue. Okay, so now that we're all caught up and on the same page, let's talk look and specs. This being the Jersey Star, they've really committed to the star theme. Mother of pearl star inlays, at least I believe they're mother of pearl, they're more colorful than plastic pearloid. The stars on the upper horn and the headstock Also, both mother of pearl, then a pearloid truss rod cover, pearloid buttons. Man, the 80s must have been a fun time. We've got a Strat-like alder body with a bolt-on 3-piece maple neck, maple fingerboard with 22 frets, 25.5-inch scale length as well, so it might seem from the spec sheet that it would be an almost identical playing experience to a Fender Strat, but there are a few key differences. Firstly, the volute. I know not everyone's going to agree with that one, but in addition to reinforcing the headstock against breaks, I found them quite helpful as a reference point on the neck. Then there's the size of these frets. On your typical Fender, they're medium. On this Shred-tastic masterpiece, they're extra jumbo. I am loving the size of these frets. I prefer larger frets over smaller in general. I just find them quicker. There's more leeway when it comes to fretting notes. Then while the spec sheet lists this as a C-shaped neck, I definitely find it to be more of a D. It's got kind of a flat-ish back. But the big thing for me is, and I'm sure you can guess if you've seen any of my videos before, it's the fingerboard radius. Your typical Fender comes with a very round 9.5-inch radius fingerboard, your typical Gibson with a 12-inch radius, LTD with 14 inches. The Jersey Star's fingerboard is even flatter than that. I'd even call it Ibanez-like with a 16-inch radius. That flat fingerboard is actually a big reason I'm not really into Ibanez so much, and I gotta say it feels pretty weird on a Strat type instrument. That being said, that spec does make it stand out on the market as a hyper-specialized Strat for shreds. So the specs are all well and good, but the great news for Kramer fans is that it feels great to play. Fretwork is good, they're well crowned and polished, the fingerboard edges have been rounded, no sharp ends. If it's anything like Epiphone QC has done in the US before it's shipped out to retailers, and there's a QC sticker on the back of the headstock, and wait, am I reading that right? Okay then. In general, I disagree with the sticker's assessment, but there are a few minor aesthetic things. Trigger warning, I guess, before the salty Kramer Defense Force destroys me in the comments. It's my job to be nitpicky about this kind of stuff for expectation's sake. So, that being said, the inlay work could be cleaner. Some of the stars look a little sloppy where the mother of pearl and black outline don't match up. The paint on the inside of the pickup selector route is a little wonky. There seems to be a decent amount of overspray on the first fret, and the neck pocket looks a little funky when you get up close. Nothing is detrimental to the playing experience. Again, I just point these things out for expectation's sake. Obviously though, another big feature that makes this a hyper specialized shred machine is the Floyd in gold, matching the pickup rings for maximum 80s. It's the Korean Floyd Rose 1000 that seems to be really popular these days amongst guitars in this price range. And that's completely understandable because it's really good. It's not as comfortable as an original, but it's also not nearly as expensive and is a huge improvement over the low-end licensed versions. It's non-recessed, it sits on the top, so while it doesn't pull up, you can do dive bombs to your heart's content, and the body hasn't had a huge chunk of wood routed out of it. Something that Kramer does that I think a lot of other brands should take inspiration from is that the Allen wrenches to adjust the truss rod, locking nut, and Floyd are secured to the back of the headstock. Why do other brands not do this? It's such a minor thing and it makes so much sense. If I break a string, I don't have to go rummaging through various gig bags or whatever to find a tool. It's right here. Speaking of a gig bag though, the Jersey Star unfortunately does not come with one. That was kind of surprising to me, seeing as most Epiphones around this price range at least come with a gig bag, if not an Epi light case or even a hard shell. Okay, so now that we've gone over all the specs and how it feels to play, let's hear how it sounds like by itself. There's a lot going on here with a 5-way switch and 2 MIDI toggles. And here's it running through the Marshall DSL 100H into the 2 Notes Torpedo Live with Glenn Fricker's Lancaster 4x12 Mesa IR. I mean, he calls it the Eagle or something, but yeah, it's a Mesa. I mean, it is hard to argue with the pickup selection. These are some of Seymour Duncan's most popular pickups. They sound good for a lot of different styles, they're time tested. Middle humbuckers are a relative rarity for a reason. I bought my G400 Custom in 2006, partially because of that third humbucker. I thought it looked cool, and I stand by that. No regrets. However, in terms of practicality, a middle humbucker doesn't make a whole lot of sense in my opinion. It's too muddy compared to the bridge and not warm enough compared to the neck. Blending it in doesn't have that many use cases. It takes some getting used to. At first it'll probably get in the way of your picking, and that extra magnet pulling at the strings has a noticeable detrimental effect on sustain. But damn, does it look cool. Also, I'm not sure why these bobbins don't have the Seymour Duncan logo on them. Even on the Sam Ash website, which is the retailer I got this one at, the products page shows them with the Seymour Duncan logo, so I don't know. Maybe this was like a really early production model or something, who knows. So actually, I just checked with Algin. The picture with the Seymour Duncan logos is of the initial prototype, so even though it's on the official website and the retailer product pages, the production models ship without the logo and the bobbins. The idea is they wanted to stay as close to the original look as possible, which didn't have the logo, and also with 3 pickups, they didn't want this to look too much like a Seymour Duncan billboard. Yeah, because the rest of the look isn't distracting enough. That would be too much. So yeah, this is one of those guitars that, just like the Charvel Satchel Signature, I would never in a million years buy for myself. It doesn't align at all with my preference for subtle looking Les Pauls and single cut guitars, but I just had to try it. I mean, I guess it is kind of like that 3 pickup SG Custom in Strat form with the Floyd on coke. And you know what? It is super fun. Like a lot of these other unapologetically 80s guitars, the theme is just fun and having a good time. Most importantly, this guitar is a good sign. I wouldn't say it's the best price for what you're getting, but very decent build quality and stays true to the spirit of the original design. Gibson is taking Kramer seriously again. So if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and hit the like button. These are of course just my opinions and I'd love to know what you think, so let me know in the comments. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, that way you don't miss any of the new uploads. Thanks to Sam Ash for making this guitar available for the review, and to Luke for mixing everything. Social media, Discord, and Patreon links are in the description. As always, thanks so much for watching. You've been awesome, and I'll see you for the next video.